speaking with Brooks Wildasin, Vice President of Product Management at Caremetx. Caremetx is a pioneer of patient access solutions for specialty therapies. For over a decade, they have been relentlessly focused on accelerating patient speed to therapy. They provide innovative solutions to deliver best-in-class patient access services from therapy initiation to adherence. Today, we're going to talk about Caremetx's most recent innovation in patient access, one that addresses what for a long time seemed like an immovable barrier preventing patients from accessing high-cost therapies. We are speaking with Brooks Wildasin, who has been working with Caremetx since 2015. All right, Brooks, why don't you tell us a little bit of background on yourself and on your role at Caremetx?
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. Happy to be here today. So I've been with Caremetx, as you said, since about 2015, which was really my first foray into the pharmaceutical industry. Prior to Caremetx, I spent a number of years working in a consultative capacity with CMS and HHS, building out various technology systems and different platforms to help support government initiatives around Medicaid and Medicare, and specifically working on different innovations to support new regulations that had come about. And from that, got the opportunity with the influx of the ACA to pivot a little bit and focus a little more on some of the healthcare exchange initiatives around the ACA. So I spent another couple of years working directly with states to build state-based healthcare exchanges, which really gave me an opportunity to get closer to patients and understand a lot of the issues around healthcare on the insurance side that were particularly plaguing patients. And really that also allowed me to get deeper or closer into pharmaceutical benefits and understanding more about how that component of our healthcare ecosystem worked. I then got the opportunity to join Caremetx back in 2015, where I've served in a number of different roles, anywhere from specifically standing up patient access service programs, but really have focused the big portion of my time at Caremetx on patient affordability and innovative solutions to help enhance overall affordability products and programs in conjunction with manufacturers as well as nonprofit organizations that support that area. And more recently have really started to move into other insurance type solutions that can help with some of the affordability and access barriers that patients encounter. And that's really become not just my job, but my passion. And I'm looking forward to speaking more today about some of those innovative solutions that we've worked through. Before we dive into that, I did want to take a moment just to introduce OutcomeRx, which is a division within Caremetx that I helped form or found, if you will, and build upon with the focus on outcomes and driving outcomes through different types of affordability, but really focusing on making sure that therapies in particular achieve the desired outcomes for patients and ultimately produce results that influence the total cost of care across our healthcare ecosystem.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brooks. Today, we want to talk specifically about therapy warranties. Can you give us some background on what those are and how they work?
Absolutely. So the concept of a specialty therapy warranty is one of our newer products that we've rolled out at Caremetx through that division, OutcomeRx. And really the purpose of a therapy warranty is to help drive alignment between stakeholders within our healthcare ecosystem, mainly the manufacturers and the payers, with the mutual goal of, again, driving positive outcomes for patients who do have to take these specialty therapies. And the general premise of a warranty is very similar to warranties in other areas of the market that we're used to. I like to use the example of a manufacturer car warranty. When you go and you purchase a new car, that car comes along with a warranty, typically backed by the manufacturer. This isn't something that you pay extra for or that you negotiate with the car manufacturer. It just comes along with the vehicle. And basically what that warranty is doing is in the event that one of the core components of the car that is under warranty, so the transmission, the anti-lock brake system, the engine in general, breaks down, you're able to take the car back to the dealer where you purchased it, or any dealer for that matter, and get the issue remedied. You're not getting money back. You're not getting some sort of other discount. You're just getting the issue resolved. Similarly, within healthcare, warranties operate in a very similar manner, where a manufacturer of a therapy has decided that they're going to stand behind or make certain promises for how that therapy will produce certain outcomes. And in the event that those outcomes are not achieved, the warranty is there to help offset additional healthcare expenses, potentially other therapeutics that are then needed to essentially remedy the fact that that therapy was not as efficacious as expected. Um, in addition to that kind of core premise around the warranties, um, there's really been a lot of evolution within the markets over the last couple of years to include changes to some of the CMS Medicaid best price reporting rulings and regulations. So CMS has made some terrific strides over the last 2 years, really, to allow or present to manufacturers, payers, and patients with other options for how to pay for therapies, but also how to kind of share in some of the efficacy and durability risk of this. And what that's done is it's removed some of the traditional barriers that were in place that limited what types of innovative models like warranties could be put in place. So massive strides from that perspective. And we're really seeing a lot of evolution in different types of value-based payment mechanisms and outcomes-based contracts like warranties because of those changes. And ultimately, the goal behind the warranty is really to rethink as a collective healthcare ecosystem how we can better address mechanisms like rebates and discounts and really tie the cost of therapies more directly to the outcomes, the positive patient outcomes that many of these therapies can achieve. And certainly, as we see more high cost therapies come to market, like cell and gene therapies, which is a rapidly expanding area of the market, um, the concept of warranties and the implementation of those warranties will continue to proliferate and become more popular because of the guarantee around those outcomes associated with the therapies.
So, without a therapy warranty, what is the alternative? And what do these alternatives present as challenges?
Terrific question. So, the concept of value-based contracts has been around for many, many years, and there's many different types of value-based contracts that are out there in the market today. However, the concept of a value-based contract typically is more grounded purely in dollars and a little less tied to specific outcomes. I mean, there's certainly still some endpoints and some measurements that are involved, but it doesn't inextricably tie the therapy to the outcomes, which has been problematic. Additionally, at least with traditional value-based contracts, they've been difficult to administer, both on the payer side as well as the manufacturer side, and certainly they place additional burden on patients and providers as well. With the influx of warranties now, we have models that really simplify the administration of these what we're going to call outcomes-based contracts versus value-based contracts. And again, we can truly tie the outcome of a therapy and its overall efficacy and performance to the underlying cost of that therapy over time. So really, without warranties, the alternative is what we've had that just really hasn't lived up to the expectations. So it's time for an evolution. And again, the key challenges are really around a lot of the administration side of things, and how these mechanisms can be deployed. So warranties give us a more flexible approach that can be applied across numerous therapies, numerous disease states at all price points, and also require a little less negotiation, if you will, which is typically another barrier for value-based contracts, in that they oftentimes need to be negotiated with many different payers, and there's a lot of stakeholders involved. And warranties give us an opportunity to standardize, and move everyone towards common goals around, again, the positive outcomes of patients who are taking these therapies.
More about shifting the paradigm from value to outcomes oriented. What does that mean?
Yeah. So again, thinking about value, we're typically talking about the price that's paid for a therapy, and achieving something for that particular price. Um, that works, but again, very difficult to administer. So as we're thinking about shifting the paradigm, it shouldn't be as much about the dollars per se, more so about the outcomes that are achieved. If you have a particularly effective therapy, even if it is higher cost, but it's producing a very efficacious and durable response for the patient that ultimately reduces the total cost of care for those patients. It's excuse me, it's much more valuable to our healthcare ecosystem as a whole. And as we continue to move more and more towards accountable care, and generally looking at outcomes more holistically, the concept of a warranty focuses again more on those outcomes, and allows us to look at other elements of the treatment journey of the patient and tie those into these warranty concepts, such as adherence programs, which ultimately again can influence the overall total cost of care of patients in a positive manner, and help patients to better achieve their outcomes, not just with the therapeutic, but also with some other with other services that can be tied along with that, to help guide them through their therapeutic and disease state journey.
Thank you so much. Can you talk more about how the therapy warranty model drives greater alignment between the interests of payers and manufacturers and why that is so important?
Absolutely. So a lot of times when new therapies enter the market, whether they're completely novel in new disease spaces, or even in therapeutic areas where we already have many other therapies, there's a lot of questions around their efficacy, and in some cases durability, depending on the type of therapy that we're talking about. And what that leads to is sometimes slower adoption of the therapies. There's very specific processes in place within different types of payer organizations where they review these therapies and make an assessment of the clinical expectation associated with those therapies. What a warranty does is allow for manufacturers, as they bring these therapies, potentially novel and very efficacious therapies, to market, to stand behind them, and say that we guarantee that certain results are going to be achieved by the patient population, and in the event that those results are not achieved, there will be an option or an ability to remedy that, whether it's transitioning to an alternative standard of care, providing for emergency services if that pertains to the particular therapy or the disease state. And so it removes some of the burden of question, if you will, around the therapies themselves, and supplements the clinical data that is available. I mean, of course, all therapies go through clinical trials, but oftentimes, especially with novel therapies, that's all that we as a healthcare ecosystem really have to go off of is those clinical trial results. And so the warranty helps to bridge that gap, and produce a guarantee that says these therapies will perform. And that's not something that we've really had in at least in the healthcare and pharmaceutical space ever. contrary to many other areas of our economy, and thinking about other consumer products, pretty much every product comes along with a warranty today across other markets. Cell phones, cars, as I mentioned, televisions, washing machines. Why shouldn't therapies come along with a similar type of warranty? And again, so that's really what starts to drive the alignment. There is the guarantee and the promise of actual outcomes being achieved.
Thank you so much. How is this therapy warranty solution being received by payers and manufacturers?
I would say generally very favorably. Payers over many years have been asking for different ways to differentiate between these therapies. Again, both in completely novel technologies that have come about, but also in different therapies that enter into, I'll call it, crowded spaces where you may have five or more therapies already on the market. How do you tell the difference? A lot of times their clinical results, or clinical trial results at least, they tell a story, but they tell a story for a specific portion of the population. And of course, the FDA has approved these and reviewed those results and support them. But it still leads to questions. How do I know, as a payer at least, which therapies should we support, and even to some degree on the provider side, which ones are the most clinically efficacious? And having warranties in place allows for payers to support therapies, ultimately more real world evidence to be collected, and again allows manufacturers to stand behind them. So the demand has been there from the payer perspective, and from the manufacturer side, it's kind of a similar thing on the other side of the fence, in that manufacturers have really looked for ways to stand behind their products, and previously, as we mentioned right at the top of the call, they were limited in their ability to do so because of the Medicaid best price reporting requirements that were out there. A lot of those barriers have now been removed, and so there's a degree of excitement around the ability to truly stand behind these products, and share in some of the potential efficacy and durability risk. So overall, very favorably, and the interests have finally aligned, and we've developed a mechanism to help drive that.
Great, thank you. The last question here, what will all this ultimately mean for patients?
It ultimately means for patients that they will be able to get access to therapies quicker, because with the warranty being behind a therapy, it will allow for some of those clinical efficacy questions to be addressed sooner, and maybe in a slightly different way. So as novel therapies come about, cell and gene therapies, or even other therapies in classes that have many other drugs on the market today, a warranty will remove some of the impediments to that access. Additionally, it reduces some of the angst or burden that a patient may have if they are prescribed a therapy by their physician, and they want to go on to that therapy. They may have some concern about the other standards of care not being covered in the future for them. So it eliminates some of that concern as well. Additionally, it really starts to, again, align the financial interests of all of these stakeholders. And what we've started to see, and conversations we've had with payers in particular, is by having a warranty behind a therapy, it actually reduces some of the affordability concerns for patients, because payers are starting to think through, potentially waiving copays and deductibles for these types of therapies, because effectively they know they're going to work. And so that's got a significant, or potentially very significant, impact on patients, where affordability is a very large consideration across our healthcare ecosystem on the patient side. And as the healthcare ecosystem has evolved over the years, there's been more of a shift of expense to patients, and this gives us an opportunity, through alignment of interest, to start to reverse some of those mechanisms that were put in place, and also gives a viable alternative to rebates and discounts, which frankly speaking, have a significant impact on the cost of healthcare in our market. If we can bring down some of the rebates and discount considerations and get closer to the true cost of the therapy, ultimately it would represent a significant amount of savings for the healthcare ecosystem and total cost of care for patients. So overall, the patients win here. Long term, we can see potentially lower premiums. We can see access to novel therapies that may not have been covered, like cell and gene therapies. And we can start to see some of these affordability barriers on the patient side break down and everything become effectively more accessible to patients.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today, Brooks. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Caitlin. It was terrific
Thank
to be here.
you.